I'm so embarrassed. One situation happened after which my mom found out about my terrible secret. This is a complete failure. Well, let me tell you everything in order. My name is Ben, and I'm a senior in high school. During all my years at school, I was always the most active and successful student. I studied well, took part in student conferences, competitions, and was respected amongst teachers. I had no bad habits, and often the moms of my friends set me up as an example of a good boy and a great friend. I confess that I was like that. Since childhood, my parents raised me in a loving environment and said that the most important thing was education and faith in myself. That is, if you are smart and confident in your abilities, you have dreams and desires, then you will definitely succeed. This attitude has always pushed me forward. I did not envy anyone, helped and supported people if it was in my power. So I lived, studied, and dreamed of college. But I had a secret that no one knew, and I would not open up to anyone about it because what I am doing is shameful. My secret has been kept for many years, and no one would ever believe that Ben, the nicest guy in school, loves, this. You're probably wondering what the secret is. Write your guesses in the comments, and at the end of the video, you'll find out if you're right. So, one early morning, the headmaster came to our class. He was very upset. The principal said that there was an accident in the nursing home the night before and a fire started there. It is good that no one was injured and the fire was extinguished in time, but the main part of the building burned down, exactly one where the bedrooms were located, and now poor older people will have to sleep in free rooms until the establishment is repaired. The principal asked everyone to help with the rubble, since our town is physically very small, so is the population, so we cannot count all the firefighters and police on one hand. The guys enthusiastically agreed to help, and right after the school we all went to the nursing home as a group. Firefighters were already working in the yard. Because of the fire, most of this building burned down. Practically nothing remained of the roof. When we started cleaning up the rubble, the employee of the establishment could hardly hold back tears, saying that they did not have the money to repair the roof, let alone overhaul the entire building. But she said that they would hope for a miracle, and while the weather is warm, the elderly should not be afraid and worried. The boys helped each other to lift heavy slabs and parts of the roof, while the girls cleared the area. After taking a break, we sat down on the ground. That kind of woman who worked as a caregiver brought us cold lemonade. After drinking my glass, I decided to walk a little along the perimeter of the site. Passing around the building, I saw the sad look of elderly lady sitting in a wheelchair through the building. She looked into the distance and was wrapped in an old torn blanket. I felt so sorry for her. Having looked at other elderly people, I almost burst into tears. Everyone had such a sad and lost look. I don't know why, but this image stuck in my head for a long time. I began to think about ways I could help them. I thought and came up with something. I came home and took up my old hobby. Nobody knew about it except for my grandmother, who in fact was my teacher in knitting. Yes, I can imagine your surprise, but it's true. When I was little, my parents often let me with my grandma. Together, we planted vegetables in the garden, rode bicycles to the forest for mushrooms. We always had a lot of fun. Grandma knitted blankets and socks every evening. I was wondering who she knits them for. My grandma said that she gives the finished things to the orphanage. For the kids who unfortunately grow up without their parents, I liked the idea of helping so much that I asked her to teach me how to knit. She resisted, saying that this was not a man's business, but I persuaded her and soon learned how to knit. Together, we knitted dozens of sets of blankets for toddlers. I was so happy. And now, a few years later, I again took up knitting needles because I wanted everyone to have a warm, new blanket in the nursing home. Every day after dinner, I went to my room and did my homework. Then, I knitted a blanket for a couple of hours and, hiding my unfinished creations under the bed, put them in a box. I wanted to note that although my parents supported me in everything, they brought me up strict, especially my mother, who believed that boys should do boxing, football, or play chess, but not knit blankets. That's why I hid my hobby from everyone. As the days passed, I learned the latest news about the nursing home from my classmates. As it turned out, caring people raised money for reconstruction and soon the building would return to its usual form. I was very happy and looking forward to presenting my blankets. One weekend, as usual, after dinner, I decided to take up knitting needles and went upstairs. Quickly ran into my bedroom, forgetting to close the door. With enthusiasm, I set to work when suddenly the door swings wide open and my mother runs in. She first looked at me And then the knitting needles and yarn and stood silently in shock, not knowing what to say. She clutched her head, saying that she had noticed strange behavior in me for some time now, and she wondered why after dinners I closed myself in my room and did not let anyone in. I thought that you were talking to a girl or reading or something, or maybe watching some bad movies, and it turns out, you knit. Blankets, socks. I would never have guessed. My mom said something else along the lines of all boys are like boys, but her son sits and knits like an old grandma. She talked about the neighborhood boys who choose the right directions, not like her son. When I explained why exactly I was doing this, my mother asked me not to tell anyone about my hobby, since she was worried about me and did not want me to be a laughingstock. I nodded approvingly. Several days later, my blankets were ready. I put everything in bags and asked my mom to take me into the nursing home. The closer we got to our destination, the harder my heart pounded. I was very nervous and worried. At the very entrance, I took a deep breath and my mother and I headed inside. The staff there were so moved that they could not hold back their tears. They said that funds allocated by the state were not enough to purchase the necessities and that my blankets were the best gift for the oncoming holidays. I went to every grandfather, every grandmother, and gave them a blanket. I saw such gratitude in their eyes that everything was clear even without words. Leaving the nursing home, my mom and I got into the car. We drove home in silence, each in their own thoughts. Outside the house, having parked the car, my mom took my hand. She apologized for her words and said that she was very proud of me. Today she realized that good deeds cannot be ridiculed. There are no things that only girls and only boys can do. If you like it, do it. Sing, play, paint, dance. It doesn't matter who you are, how old you are. The important thing is that it brings you happiness. We walked home and I was radiant. Doing good is so easy, and you just need desire. If you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up and comment us below.
From the very birth, I know what it's like to be an outcast of society. I know hunger, problems, when every day is a struggle, when you want a small piece of bread to save your life, but there is none. I don't know if there is a feeling worse than this. Not surprisingly, I grew up aggressive, but more importantly, I never knew how to sympathize with people. All that I remember from my childhood is that I grew up in an orphanage. The kids had a lot of stories. We always found out who was left when and how. It was a challenge of who had it worse, whose mother was more brutal. Since many of us have been there since day one, we had no idea what our parents looked like, and if we looked like them, what we liked and what we didn't. We were simply given things and were never asked for our opinion. We were taught to be like grateful dogs for what we had, and not to ask for more. Life was harsh, like anywhere else, but somehow I was still doing fine. These people were my family. I did not know other life, so I didn't complain. When someone was punished or beaten up, or when people took away somebody's food, I always felt sorry for that person. I wanted to run up, hug them, and calm them down. I don't know why I was like that. But then everything changed. I remember once again trying to help some girl. A boy offended her, taking away her favorite toy. I went up to her, but she did not calm down. Then the caretaker heard her screams, so she thought that I was the one who offended her and gave me a big spanking. She beat me with a belt many times until I had no strength to yell. Frustrated, I went to our room, where I could not even sit down. The wicked woman came after me and said that the principal punished her because of me. She saw how she beat me up and then fined her. Then Annie was so angry that, as a revenge, she threw some papers at me saying that my parents had abandoned me at birth. She knew that this was a very painful subject to me because I was afraid of what I could hear. I was not told before what happened and how I got here, but my hope was that I got here by accident and that soon someone would come and take me away. And her words pierced through my dreams. My hopes for the best, which meant that I was stuck here for a long time. From that moment on, I decided to change my behavior because now I had to survive. In such an environment, I shouldn't have any friends. I should keep everyone at arm's length, because such an attitude would help me survive for some time. And no matter what happened, I did not feel pity. I did not want to worry about anyone because the last time I did that, everything went wrong. And then there was a case. One girl who was younger than me came up to everyone in the canteen. She was very hungry, but no extras were given out, so she asked everyone to share food with her. Some people shared and some didn't, but when she came up to me, I just kicked her in the stomach so that she would not interfere with my eating. Naturally, she screamed, and I realized that I did not care one bit. After this, there were so many more miserable cases before my eyes, and among them were those that were not just. All this did not bother me. Yes, I realized that I did not care. I made myself so ruthless, unable to sympathize with people. And maybe it's not so bad. Over time, I gained the status of an aggressive teenager, and many caretakers began to dislike me even more. And then there were problems with my behavior, and everyone began to point fingers at me. It was convenient for them to make me the guilty one. I have lost all hope for anything good. I forgot about the old Beth. By the way, yes, that's my name. Over the years, the whole world made me angrier. Well, then something happened that I never expected. Beth, these people want to be your parents. Now you're going to a new house, the headmistress told me. It was a shock. I stood in the middle of the office and looked at a woman and a man unfamiliar to me. They stretched out their hands and called to them. But I didn't trust them, and who were they for me to trust them anyway? I just left the office, loudly slamming the door. The caretakers came for me, and they forcefully collected all of my things and then pushed me into the hallway. My new parents took my hand and put me in the car. They tried talking to me, but I had no desire. So a new life began for me. I got a house, my own bedroom, breakfasts, lunch, and dinners every day. Mom and Dad talked to me every day, trying to find common ground with me, but I always thought it was just a trick and I did not trust them. I behaved aggressively and asked them to go back to the orphanage, surprising the adults. Mom asked me to talk to her, but I did not want to. So, 2 months passed. I noticed that their patience was running out and that they were not so eager to talk to me. It seemed like a little more and they would return me back, which is what I wanted. I would be back in my element and everything would be as before. So, time went on, but then they did not return me. On the contrary, my mom began to give me gifts, invited me out to places, she gave me new clothing, shoes, and much more. And it pissed me off. I have not accepted any of the 30 gifts. And the last one was an iPod. They bought it for me for the 3-month anniversary of living together. I broke it in front of my mom. She cried, but I still did not care. I went to my room and locked myself in. The next morning, she asked me what I wanted, and I said that I just wanted to go back. And they agreed. I was brought to the same orphanage. I went to the painfully familiar walls, and only then I really saw how awful it was. Damp, cold, with lots of people, no soft beds, tasteless food, constant screams and punishments. Suddenly, I felt scared. I wanted to leave, but the door closed behind me. I realized that I chose this option on my own. The first days were simply unbearable. After amazing conditions at the house, I realized that I was in living hell. Beth, they came to you, the caretakers told me 3 days later. I was so happy. I thought that my mom had come for me. But another woman was sitting in the waiting room. She greeted me and then she was like, "Betty, I'm your mom." At that moment, the earth shattered under my feet. I did not know how to behave and what to say. She hugged me, but I felt nothing. Basically, she said that she was made to abandon me and that she regretted it. And now, having saved up some money, she wanted to take me back. So I agreed. When we arrived at her house, it was terribly messy. 3 more children were running around. They were all from different men, like I was. My mom looked shabby. She drank and smoked in front of the kids, and there was nothing to eat, and generally speaking, she did not really look after the kids. They were all dirty, hungry, and always screaming. She tried to play the role of a good mom for exactly 1 day, and then she began to bother me with cleaning and babysitting. I lived there for 2 weeks, and then I accidentally found out that she filed for alimony. That's why she needed me, to demand money from my biological father. I felt disgusted by her house. I realized that it was not about me, that I was thrown away not because I'm bad, but because this woman is not capable of being a mother. That's all. And when, once again, she threw a dirty rag at me with the words, "Go bathe the children," I suddenly left the house and ran away. She screamed out of the window, but I did not turn around. It was winter. I was in just a sweater, pants, and slippers. My legs led me to my adoptive parents. I haven't seen them for about a month, and I missed them terribly. My mom cried when she saw me. She hugged me and then quickly led me into the house. I was also crying. For the first time in so many years, I cried everything out. And my mom kissed me and said, "Welcome home, daughter." It was the best thing I've ever heard. Since then, I have never left that house ever again. I stayed and I live here to this day. And you know, I am the happiest girl ever. If you liked the video, then press the like button and leave us some comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe.